Okay, I got it. I know exactly why I answered that way. So, number one, she asked me a hypothetical question that said, if we were to have an RFP, a client who is going to send a cardiometabolic RFP, would we as good consultants be able to answer and say SWORD essentially is ready, or SWORD is a potential solution? I answered her honestly. And on April 20th, let me give you the further context of the WTW question. The WTW question stems back to some feedback I gave Rick in the document today. When we launch a new solution, they want 90 days at minimum to vet it, not only the partnership team that I deal with monthly, but also the associate SMEs on the Hue team. And the reason they want to do that is they want to assess, they want to know what the solution is, or why are we expanding the existing solution, number one. Number two, what goes into this solution. And number three, essentially, are you ready to receive an RFP from us if we were to send one? Meaning that 100% you could answer all the questions. That my answer on April 20th was based on a question that was posed to the Mind team 2 months prior, when we had a meeting with those subject matter experts with the Mind team. And we went into that meeting believing the answer was yes. At the end of that meeting, they told us the answer is no, you guys are not ready. And here's why: A, B, and C.
Okay.
Now, you're 90% there. If you get the next 10%, then we feel good about that. On April 20th, with Pulse not even being launched to the market, the answer was no. And I gave further context, and I said, because as you think about what cardiometabolic might mean to a particular client, we don't have everything integrated, and we don't have it fully built out, and that won't come until the end of the year. And I said, then in the near future, we may be able to say the answer is yes, based on what the client specifically is looking for in a cardiometabolic solution. I answered it through the lens of WTW, and as if I had a consulting hat on objectively. Now, that probably grates against these nerves, because I said, no, we're not ready, but I was being objective with a partner. And I don't know if it goes against his nose, but the point is, now we're ready. We're receiving RFPs. So here we are. And I just learned this from Kevin Lang the other day, talking to him. April, May, June, July. So April to May to June. 2 months later, we're now ready to receive RFPs. That came directly from Kevin. So the answer at the time is no. I said we will be in the future, and the future is now.
Okay.
That's I'm not trying to defend what I said. I'm just saying this is the reason. And now that I heard what I said based on the answer and remembering back to the Mind call previously, that's the context.
Got it. So just so I'm clear, so in February when we had the Mind call, we were nothing against Pulse. It was just all Mind. It was we weren't ready. We said we weren't ready because we weren't ready, and then when we had this came up, you're like,
no. Let me back up a step. The Mind 1.0 was previewed last year, and the WTW Behavioral Health SMEs liked it. Then we announced we were going out with the Mind EAP. Guggen jumped the gun by 4 months, and got a hold of the behavioral SMEs in September and said, we're launching a Mind EAP. I'd like to set a meeting in January. That SME who leads behavioral health got a hold of Tanya and said, like, what the heck? What is this? Tanya hates hearing that from somebody when she doesn't know what's going on. I didn't even know what's going on, which was a really bad look. So we had to scramble, mea culpa, all of this, and by January, Guggen was gone anyways. We rescheduled that meeting to February. In February, we came to the table, and Tanya contacted me a few days prior and said, hey Joe, are you guys ready that if there was an RFP that was going to come in for an EAP, you guys would be market ready? And I said, yes, I believe we are, based on feedback from the team. We go into that call. At the end of it, the assessing team from WTW said, you're really not 100% ready. Let us send you an RFP so you could see all the questions, and that we will help you get to market ready. And this goes back to the other piece of feedback I gave Rick. They want to help us. I hear help us help you all the time. They want to help us, and we refuse to do it in the way that they've asked us to. And it pisses them off, and it's getting to the point where if it happens probably one more time, they seriously might take us up on the comment they made of, is this partnership really worth it?
Okay.
So it's my priority in that document to Rick should not be glossed over lightly. I bolded things and I underlined things for a reason. But that's a history of how we get ahead of ourselves with our consultants. And it's not just WTW, it's all of them, and why they get annoyed with us.
Do you
And
feel
when we,
okay?
and we run the risk of you know, if we answer an RFP, like let's say we're 80% ready, we think we're 100%, we're 80% as evidenced by an RFP that comes in, and we can't demonstrate good answers to the other 20%. We run the risk of shooting ourselves in the foot for other opportunities until we can demonstrably prove we're ready. I'd rather get the feedback up front, and then when we go out the door, we're ready to receive RFPs.
So, I mean, granted, this wasn't like a call that was last week, to your point. It was 2 months ago, and a lot of things have changed. So when you, curious, when we talked to Kevin, he's like, we're ready to go. This is good. So the answer when he brought up with Kevin is like, was that the right response? Have you talked about with him about that? Or he's like, or would he?
What I said in April?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Kevin, I think, has listened to that call though.
Okay.
Because if I remember correctly, anything related to Pulse that I brought up to him, and I did give him feedback after that call, I'm pretty sure. I'll go back and double check. He would go and listen to the call. It did not create an issue for him, at least from what I think he listened to. Now, I don't think he listened to the whole call. Maybe he looked at the transcript or, jumped around. But I remember on the most recent call we had with the SMEs on June 11th, we indicated that we are actually receiving RFPs right now.
Okay.
So we are ready to receive RFPs.
Right. Yeah. The concern was when Rick brought up to me in our 101 today was like, it seems like we weren't prepared. We're saying things that weren't true, and I'm like, oh, let me get to the bottom of this with you before anything else. Like,
saying things that weren't true as if we're not ready.
If we weren't ready, but
we were ready, and the truth is we were not ready at that point.
Right.
Based on the question she asked and the context, which he would not have heard in that call, the context is back to the mind call.
Okay. This is why you had to dig in. This is good.
And here's the other dynamic with Tanya. Tanya will ask that question not as a trap, but I've dealt with her. I've known her I knew her 3 or 4 years before I even came to Sword. I used to work with her.
Mm-hmm.
I know why she asked the questions. She asked the questions to kind of test. And if she doesn't believe the answer is on, like if I would have said, yeah, we're ready, she would have pressed further to try to demonstrate we weren't. And going back to the mind call, then you get into hot water and you say, well, if you remember back to the mind call, Joe, you guys thought you were ready and you're not. So are you ready now to prescribe GLP-1s? Are you ready now to do this, to do that? And my answer would have been no, no, and no. And she's like, well, you're not market ready, so we can't do an RFP.
Yeah.
I avoided all that pain and answered honestly. And lastly, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to soft soap or lie just because I think I should make Sword look good. I mean, it's not if we were market ready, I would have said we were market ready.
Yeah. I think maybe
market ready at that time for an RFP, and I was wrong. I gladly admit it and apologize.
Yeah, and I think maybe the confusion too is like it wasn't because in RFP, if you think about it too, it's like we're going to be ready when it's ready. Like in RFP, it's not like we're implementing it today, right? It's implementing it in the future, and that's when you're like, this will be ready then. But yeah, I needed to figure out like this. All this context is really important because like all they did, they heard this. They're saying, why aren't we saying the right things? I'm like, well, let me get to the bottom of like what exactly. This is great. The February call this, and then now it's June. There's a lot that's changed. So this is really helpful because when V came to Rick came to me, and I'm like, well, let me just figure this out. It almost sounded like this was the wrong information. Well, now I have this, and I can go back to Rick, and that the write up you did will definitely like help out with that. That was the concern that they had, is like, is this the right thing? So.
Yeah, and I'm happy to jump on a call with Rick and explain everything I just explained to you. Gemini's taking notes, so it might even capture a bunch of that.
Sure.
And I think it goes hand in hand with what I said. That is literally, Domenico, this is my biggest pain point with this relationship. And listen, I get it. If Sword wants to go this route and continue to do this, that's fine. And I'm actually okay with that, because I know how we operate and I can operate within that environment. I'm flagging all of this to say we run the risk of damaging a relationship to the point that if we continue to do this, it may go away.
So
Go away.
So there's a difference between future selling and present promising, if you will, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, in the meeting so that was April. In the meeting in May, Dr. Toro gave additional feedback, and she said something to the effect of, listen, you went to market with this, you're kind of building it as you go. You didn't necessarily come to us in advance and get some feedback, but historically that's the way you've rolled, and to date it's turned out okay for you guys. Mm-hmm. She said something like that, and from that May meeting, or that April to May meeting, and that feedback I got from her, to the point that we were at in the June meeting with her and the rest of the team, she's advanced way more forward around her thoughts about Pulse. So we've seen an improvement. I would just prefer to get there prior to launch than have to do all of this after launch.
Got it. And I'm almost curious if we compared like the transcript from April, May, June, we'd see the progression of like the questions asked, and also what's quote unquote baked and correct and ready, and you would see their tone also probably in change and improve too with you, right? If we just compared the three transcripts about like, hey, what's the difference between the three, you'd probably hear that and see that, because you've been telling me since the conversation beginning of the year to now, the relationship, the confidence and things have improved, not detracted, right?
So let me just give you, in my document to Rick, under Patricia Toro, which is page 1 to 2 at the bottom, she's the most clinically sophisticated Hue contact we agree with. She attended the June 11th Pulse session and has been the most rigorous evaluator of our solutions. And she's another tough but fair person. Her prior sentiment on Pulse was, it was not ready for consultant recommendation. That's a direct quote that came from one of those transcripts. Her 4 criteria definition of ready to recommend was documented. She is a constructive critic, not an adversary, and her recent moving from skeptic to engaged evaluator across the WTW Hue engagement cycle is a significant relationship development. She was also a lead evaluator on the Comcast win and is actively involved in trialing Sword annually. So there's your summary.
Yeah.
Across 3 months.
Okay.
Dr. Toro and the comment of not ready to now ready.
Okay.
And we can pull the transcripts into a further deeper dive. I'm happy.
Yeah, I'll meet with Rick next week on our one-on-one. We'll kind of go over this. I mean, there's just a million things that we'll probably end up discussing, but this doc plus all of this is going to be incredibly helpful, because I think just hearing one thing is one side of the story, or just a snippet, doesn't tell what you just told me for the last 15 minutes. It paints a bigger picture. But I think overall, I think it also goes to, I think we had my one-on-one with him. We also had our team meeting. I think now that we're middle half of the year, although I was, I believe, given that our 80 million goal, we're at 30 million with 15 to 20 million that I believe that it's ours, not to mention our pre-pipeline, which sits at almost 40 million. Like, I think that we're going to sit pretty well in terms of like where we're going. I don't know about you, but I feel better than I thought I did a couple of months ago.
Yep,
But
we're getting momentum.
We're getting momentum, but like that, yeah. But the big push is just like any organization is. Why are we getting? It's just like, hey, should there even be more coming from consultant relations? Not our team, but just in general, like getting more business. And I'm like, look, if we're just talking about lead sourcing, that's debatable, right? The whole but I'm like, are we talking about the sentiment overall? Like, I think we've definitely made improvements than we have, and I feel the sentiment I'm getting from up top is that like there needs to be even more. And I'm like, okay, well, how do we do that? Well, we just take better voice of the market, like Joe's doing. We are hiring more people. We're going out there and meeting more events. Like, there's a lot that needs to be done. But I in terms of month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year growth, I definitely see that progression. And so,
thanks. I appreciate that. And the other thing I was going to say was, we